Hey, this is Brett Manning, and welcome to the Singing Success Show podcast. I'm your host, and this is my co-host,
Dustin Small. Good to see you guys again.
Good to see you. I hope you've been joining us. If you haven't seen the earlier podcasts, go watch those because these kind of build on each other. Let's go do a couple shout outs. Why don't you throw down?
Well, I wanted to mention we just got word that Lainey Wilson has made her Opry debut.
Ooh.
I believe that was earlier this week. I'm hearing
Nice.
great things so far.
Awesome. What an experience for her. Gosh.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the craziest, most surreal thing that I hear from lots of artists that I can only imagine.
It's almost like at that point would be like doing the Carnegie Hall. That
Correct.
our Opryland is the New York Carnegie Hall. I'm singing Carnegie Hall. Well, you've arrived. So,
That's right.
yeah.
We have word that Passion has got a new album coming out on March 6th. So it's
Awesome.
It's something that I'm looking forward to.
Yes, me too.
Add a little bit more influence to the quiet time there, if you will.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
What else we
And
got?
hey, our friend Clark Beckham
Ooh,
on tour
Clark.
now. Why don't you talk a little bit about Clark?
Clark has been using my program for a little over 10 years. I ran into him about 5 years ago. Gosh, is it 5? Yeah, 5 years ago. I was doing a gig on Music Row and found out that he was the artist right before me. And then he got up there and said, "Hey, I just want to give a shout to my vocal coach. He doesn't know he's my vocal coach, but I've been using his program for like 10 years and it really saved my voice." And he told this beautiful story and he came over and met me and then we ended up working together. I remember just being blown away, like, who is this machine up there on stage? The guy is a machine. If you haven't heard Clark, it's just the best description of his voice is capable. And that's one of the best compliments I could ever give a singer when they arrive to a certain place. Like, you can do whatever you want, right? And he's that guy, just super soulful, brilliant musician, a vocal artist who was first runner-up on American Idol season 14. I think Nick Fradino, or however you say Fradino, whatever his name, was won that. But it was one of the closest voting they've ever had on the first place. And so his name will come up a little bit later as we start talking about getting a record deals and whether you want one or not. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah, so watch for him, get his record. It's a fantastic record. He has a performance of him playing here on the Smule channel on Facebook. So he did a Facebook Live here, and it was fantastic.
Right on.
All right.
What's our topic for today, Brett?
Our topic today is...
Something you know a little bit about, I would hope.
Okay. Wow. Here's the question on our topic. It says, can singing success and or speech level singing hurt my voice? And what is the difference between the two? And I've got a couple talking points. And my first talking point is to say something that is a little controversial. I want to give you a damn good reason to never take voice lessons.
Wait, say that again?
A damn good reason to never take voice lessons.
You do know why we're here today, Brett.
Yeah, I'm a voice coach. And
Okay, well, carry on.
Yeah.
I got to hear this now then.
Here's a damn good reason. Because whatever you're doing, you're either going to get worse, going to get better, or stay the same.
Fair.
And so you've had lessons, and we can talk about that, where you felt like maybe you just stay the same. Nothing has changed.
Yep.
That's a good reason to not take a lesson. You
would
get
agree with
worse.
that.
Yeah. If you get worse, that's a very good reason to not take a lesson. A very famous country artist called, and I worked with a guitar player, and she was cussing in the background like a sailor with a raspy voice. He goes, "Tell Brett Manning he needs to fix my voice." And because some coach had been making her yell, and a coach who hates my guts, who it'll be a nice segue into this, can singing success hurt your voice? Well, apparently you hurt her voice because she was yelling, and yelling is the worst thing you'll do as a singer. Crying, you can't lose your voice. Babies never lose their voice, even when you want them to. They can say, "Oh, ah," and never lose their voice. Why? Because it's intuitive for them, counterintuitive for us. But shouting is our intuitive sense. We panic because human beings are stupid, because we're the only animals who run faster when we get lost. and
Whoa.
that will lead you to yell. And so, because this girl was yelling, she needed me to fix it. So I gave him a couple exercises to show her, and she basically just went to a throat doctor instead of working with me, which was fine too, because the guy she went does the same exercises, and that's cool. Would have loved to work with her, but she was so angry. I didn't want to be
You
in
win
that
some,
fire.
you lose some, man.
I didn't want to feel that fire, that rage coming on me. Like, hey,
Fair
just
enough.
wait for the fire to calm down. But she ended up winning her first Grammy recently too. I'm not gonna say who it is, but she got her voice hurt. So people ask all this time and say, so a damn good reason to not take it is because you're getting worse. In her case, staying the same in your case, and a lot of times in my case, and some of the lessons I took in the past. But getting better is a great reason to study.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
But those other two reasons are two damn good reasons to not ever take a voice lesson unless unless it's reputable, unless these people are saying, hey man, I'm telling you what, in the first half hour, you're going to say, I've just figured out my voice. It should produce radical change. I say either you're learning rapidly or you're wasting your time. Life is too short to learn slowly.
Fair enough.
Ouch. How many lessons are we trying to learn in our lives, and we're doing it too slow?
Probably more than we would like to admit, unfortunately. But hey, we're here. It's all about improvement.
That's right. Improvement. Fast, rapid change. Doesn't mean being in such a hurry that you can't go through the process. It does create you do need patience, but I have no patience for something that doesn't work. I want to be patient with something that is working.
Well, what specific techniques do you find, in all of your experience and knowledge, that do tend to put undue strain on your voice, and the opposite? What do you find eases that strain or immediately improves it?
Well, the first thing, and you experienced this in your first lesson. Why don't you? We were talking yesterday about someone you'd worked with before, and she does similar exercises to me.
Yeah.
But why it wasn't working?
All we were doing were running scales. There was
no
literally
real demonstrations, no
there was
explanation
no
of what it was.
demonstration. There was no technique. There was no information as to why this was being done.
Yeah,
it was just basically
do this. Now do this.
plaques.
Nay. Now do this.
Yeah,
Mum. And you
correct.
see all the plaques.
there
on
were
the
plaques
wall.
on the walls, and that was basically all the explanation this particular coach thought that they needed when you walked into the room. Couldn't be further from the case.
Yeah.
And it's not. It could be anyone. Honestly, this person was recommended to me from a high up at CAA who I was working with at the time. This person was their first call for a vocal coach.
Oh.
It's not like I was just, down in somebody's basement, somebody who just graduated Belmont as a vocal performance major that just said, oh, well, I can't really perform much right now, so I guess I'll just teach voice lessons. Why not? I mean, I've been in plenty of lessons. I can run scales on a piano.
Right.
How hard can it be?
Yeah.
This definitely was not the case. This person was called upon a lot
Yeah.
to work with lots of different artists, some of which you've definitely heard of. Trust me on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it did nothing.
So, in your first session with me, we talked about disconnecting the digastric and hyoid muscles, the swallowing muscles. Remember, we were doing this, which keeps you from straining. The second these muscles pull down, something's wrong.
Yep.
So if I can't hum high, if I can't go, and by the way, completely unwarmed up, by the way, and your warm up shouldn't have to take years. You should be able to find your voice very quickly. If you've disengaged those muscles, the vocal cords are vibrating freely. If they're vibrating freely, they're warming up quickly. If they're not, you're actually just warming up muscles that surround. But did you hear that word, digastric, hyoid, swallowing muscles, anything? Outer muscles of the larynx? Never heard that first session.
I think the only thing I heard was, "Can I get you a water?"
Or a Coke.
Yeah.
Or a Coke.
Actually, I don't think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I think I
It's
may
right.
have been offered a Coke.
Yeah. I've had some of this other coach. I'm not even say male or female. This other coach's clients, and I have respect for this particular coach's order of exercises. I listened to a warm up and said, "That's a pretty good warm up." If you know what you're doing, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's like watching an exercise app. It can help you because, I can sit there and say, "Do push-ups, do squats, do pull-ups. You'll get in shape.
Yeah.
And some planks too would be good.
Your
for
phone
you.
just said, "Great job, Sally.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work."
Yeah, but what about form? The form is everything. When I learned to do a correct pull-up, even a correct push-up, it changed everything. I was told push my shoulder blades together as I go down. Suddenly, wow, I got strong fast, really fast because I was doing it right. So doing a thing over and over again, expecting a different result, we all know is the definition of
Insanity.
yes. Thank you. So you had been doing that. Did you hear about dropping the larynx?
No.
Okay, what does it mean dropping there? You pick it up and drop it? No, lowering the larynx. Because as you sing higher, the propensity is for your larynx to raise up. If you put your hand on your Adam's apple, that V-shaped notch, if you go to the top of your neck, slide down, don't push hard, just push gently, and you'll feel a little V-shaped notch. You swallow, that goes up. You yawn, it goes down. Now you don't want to sing with it all the way down. It's going to sound muddy. You sing too high, it's whiny. Sing in the middle, it's okay. But the problem is, as you go higher, the larynx wants to raise up. So if I yell, a lot of techniques yell techniques that we talked about, the one that busted up that particular girl who was calling me cussing like a sailor, saying, cussing like a, why do we say that? All the sailors I've known don't cuss. But if I say, hey, 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 cussing like a Nashville driver, how's that? Oh, that's good. Yay! The larynx goes up. And as the larynx goes up, every note higher gets harder. And eventually I run out of real estate. I'm not going to have any more room to raise that larynx. So the larynx stays neutral. And for those of you watching, I don't know if you can see my larynx, but if I say this, if I say, it's 3 octaves. My larynx didn't move. If it doesn't move, maybe I can do that with my mouth open. Doesn't hurt. Now, it's not my full sound, but you go and yelling and go splatty. That will hurt your voice. So when people say, can speech level singing hurt your voice? And the reason we say that is the particular guy that was teaching this girl was doing all these videos saying speech level singing and preventing stuff will hurt your voice. And somebody left a comment. Now, this person actually slandered me, actually libeled me because they did it in writing.
Technically.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going after them. I don't care. They're kind of small potatoes to me. I mean, bless them. I would have coffee with this person. I'd give them a hug and say, "What's up, bro?" But
well, it's never a good idea to try to, promote your own stuff by slamming somebody else.
Exactly. That's why I'm not going to mention.
At the very least in poor taste, if not completely incorrect.
Exactly. And that's why I just won't mention names of other people. I just won't. But I will talk about techniques. But this particular person, somebody wrote on Sing and said, I used Sing Success and started making my ears ring. What are you talking about? If you have tinnitus, then yeah, maybe your ears are ringing. It had nothing to do with speech level singing, because speech level singing implies singing on the level of speech. If you're talking, if I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not speech level singing. That's an affective 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And reaching my chin up and tighten up on the outer muscle of the larynx. That's not speech level singing. That will hurt you, but causing your ears to ring. And then the person responded to this person who was probably a setup. Yes, I've also heard that Singing Success can do that. You have? You want to provide some proof? I heard that you bombed the World Trade Center. Well, that's really horrible if I make that type of accusation against you. That's a terrible, terrible thing. Make an accusation without proof doesn't make me a bad person, makes you a bad person. So if you're that type of person that wants to come out and slander something, eventually you got to expect me to defend myself just a little bit. And I'm doing it hopefully as winsomely as possible, but with a little bit of intensity because
we'll give you this one.
Because make your ears ring.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it makes no sense.
And what you experience from the technique immediately when you had your first session?
The first word that comes to mind is freedom.
Freedom. So freedom, let freedom ring. Let freedom make your ears ring. Wow.
Well, maybe your ears are ringing because you're singing right, and more people are hiring you as a singer.
That's right. Or maybe
you're standing in front of too many guitar amps because you're singing a lot.
Yeah, maybe ears start ringing because I have more power. I'm making my own ears ring. Wow. wow, that's
Whoa.
whoa, whoa. So, singing success cannot hurt you. Now, anybody can oversing, push, try to outsing the song, which I have a quote up there. It was from Claude McKnight in a session I did with him where we say, don't outsing the song, don't outsing the original artist, don't outsing yourself. It's on my little marker board. If you follow me on Instagram, occasionally you'll see me post up little things from my board here. A chalkboard wall, actually. And so we say, don't outsing the song. The song is not asking you to sing as hard as you are. There's some people, I hear girls that say, I want to sing as big as Adele. You can't. She's got an enormous voice.
Sure.
Huge voice. And sometimes it's caused her, I mean, it's public, we know, it's
Yeah.
caused her a little bit of issues.
Yeah, she's had to cancel, I think, a couple tours, hasn't she, in the past
Yeah.
because of vocal fatigue?
And so if she's singing big and you're trying to sing as big as her, it's going to cause trouble.
Yeah, and there's always that added stress of like the live situation that you can't always account for beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on the stage, lights are on you, however many people or eyeballs are staring back at you. It's kind of hard to always think about technique, and honestly, you shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
You should know the technique. You should put the 10,000 hours in before you're
Mm-hmm.
on that stage and really having to give it your all. But there is that live thing that needs to be accounted for as well.
And I think the key is to it is when you're confident, you're comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you're in control. You don't have to work so freaking hard to get the song out. And if the song is too hard, some of the drummer guys that you've worked with, would you try to trade off riffs and solos with them? You're like, nah, man,
No.
you're in a whole nother place. Some of these jazz freaks and,
Immense amount of respect for those
yeah.
guys, and that's again alluding to where I'm from, originally from New Orleans, and it's the birthplace of jazz.
yeah.
It's one of the things that I'm still currently working on is having more voicings, and particularly in that genre. But I would never try to trade licks with anybody who lives in that world, because I know my thing.
You stay in your lane, and it's the same thing. So if you're losing your voice, when we're talking about voice injuries today, if you're losing your voice, it's because you're trying to outsing the song. The song didn't ask you. You're trying to outsing yourself or outsing the original artist. I would say the outsing yourself is the last one, but you outsing the original artist. Remember this girl singing Mariah Carey going, Mariah sings, treated me kind. This girl goes, treat me kind. Oh, you know why Mariah didn't do that? Because she has some wisdom. Because she had the wisdom, and the producer saying, don't do all that, Mariah. Hold off. Get the melody. Establish the melody. Why are you out singing that song? And if people hear, heard it from the other side, they say, I'll bet I can yell louder than that. Heard it from the other side. And eventually, you got to stop, man. How loud do you think you need to sing? 95% of my coaching in the studio is back off.
Yeah.
You're over singing. Back off. Back off. Because we hear in our mind these contests on TVs, and they say, vote for contestant number 1. And it's TV, and it's cool. I'm all for it. I really am. But it's not radio.
Right.
Radio doesn't, artist number 1, and they go, up. Artist number 2, and artist number 3, whoa. And they're holding out these long money notes. There's no money notes on the radio. Hardly ever.
Yep.
Adele's one of those few people that does those. Just huge voice. But even then, she pulls back, and we're given more to her subtlety. So usually you hurt your voice because poor technique. And then if you have great technique, you hurt your voice, as I have. And no singer alive who is honest will tell you that he hasn't hurt his own voice, because we just get foolish. We push harder and harder and harder because we get our egos take over.
Well, and you can't compete with guitar amps and drums and
No.
stuff like that, even though you try to sometimes, and it
Right.
just, you back yourself into a hole. It happens to everybody, like you said.
You have to be willing, like you said, to stop and realize, what am I doing this for? Why am I trying to outsing myself? So don't give more than you possess. If you find out what is 100% of your voice, and sing 60 to 70% of it. my engineer here, Dallin Beckover, here, who will be a guest on here eventually, and we'll have some great conversations. When I was in the studio with him, I said, this very last place, this says, breathe, breathe again, this empty space. And at the very end, it says, it breathes, it breathes. She needs me, she needs me. And I'm like going for it. I'm like, is it too much? He goes, well, if you're ever going to go for it, it should be now. And it's good wisdom. It's like the end of the song. She needs me. One song where I get a little risk, that little bit of rasp, because I wanted just that punch. He said, yeah, give one of those. And everybody says, oh, this is my favorite song, part of the song.
But it's calculated. It's
right. One money note where I didn't out-sing myself.
Sure.
And even then, I'm not singing to the full place of my voice. Mm-hmm. I'm holding back a bit because I would ruin the song. But needs me. I mean, I know some people try to make everything squeeze opera like, sheesh, dude. And that ain't even good opera. Because even Pavarotti, the most resilient vocalist of our time, canceled several gigs. He says, I rather cancel a gig. Now, I didn't hear him say this. Is somebody told me, so you probably have to Google and verify this, but I'd heard that he said, better to cancel a concert performance than give bad performance and disappoint like that, huh?
Absolutely.
So if you're having a bad day, it's not the worst thing to do is to cancel instead of trashing your voice. Then you get a steroid, and a steroid shot puts you back about 6 months because even though you get your voice back immediately, it's 6 months before you build up your vocal endurance again because you atrophy the vocal cords.
Oh, it's essentially a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Band-Aid on a bullet.
Write that down.
That's our song. You can't steal it. We already own it. We Band-Aid on a bullet.
Do it. Don't do it. We're watching you.
Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Hey, this is a side note. Never lose a good idea. Band-Aid on a bullet. Even in the middle of this podcast, I'll write that down because I never lose a good hook. I've written over 2,500 songs, and I keep adding to that total because when somebody says something clever, I'm like, Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
So we did talk about the lip rolls and the low larynx positioning. Yeah. Let's maybe talk about one more technique in a pinch, like getting your voice in place right away, which I, actually had to do recently as well.
Yeah.
From a long time of being dormant because I've been so in producer and writer and drummer mode that I was called upon on a split second notice in front of a live crowd to front a band for a song because the lead vocalist had to run off stage for a moment. So we talked about the lip rolls and the low larynx thing. What would be one more thing that you would throw at me in this particular case if I said, hey, I have to sing in 30 seconds and be convincing in front of a crowd?
In 36, let's say I wake up, my voice is cold. I'm going to go. And then just to feel the scale, and then one big stretch, then head voice, then try to connect from head into chest. Then I'm going to meow, meow, meow. And if I can get a little bit violent with it and get some force,
and
if
it's
I'm
all
running
connected.
downhill,
I don't know if that's coming across on the mic or but it's all connected. There's no break whatsoever.
Yeah, and doing that, 30 seconds now. Can everybody just do that in 30 seconds? Pavarotti says, in one of my favorite quotes, he goes, and it's easy. After 20 years, of course. So, because the sounds that he would make would be so epic, and his face would look like this doing it. And if you haven't seen him on YouTube, go to where he talks about it has to be covered. The chords generally vibrate very relaxed, which is what we talk about, low larynx. And first he goes up and he sounds like he's going to hit the note beautifully. He goes, ah! And he goes, it's a spectus triangle, huh? But it's, and you think, well, it's bad opera. But if you're not familiar, he starts to sound pretty good because he can't sound bad, right? But then he does, oh, and you think, oh, that's different. Oh, oh, Okay, you can float up there. You can't. Pinches, whiny, distorted. And you watch him do it. It's just insane what he does. The greatest singer of our generation, if you have to pick one, Pavarotti.
I'll
And-
give you that one.
And let me talk about this more stuff about people say. There's another criticism that I've heard is like, with my program, I set you free by teaching you to let go of your preconceived notions and all that's nice psychobabble stuff. I love psychology. I'm big into that, the mental aspects of the game. But sometimes it becomes psychobabble when you lose the practicality, because life is incredibly practical.
Sure.
And you cannot violate certain laws with impunity. And one law you cannot violate with impunity is the laws of musculature. So this person says, I will teach you that scales are actually harmful for your voice. And by giving his accent away, you might know who he is. Because I kind of like the guy, kind of think he's charming. You know, I would be good friends with him. But I'd say that, but dude, saying that, you literally just kicked every 95% of the vocal coaches in the face. You took a drive-by shot at him. So we got to respond.
Sure.
Because anybody hearing that scales hurt your voice, you're too late, man. You're too late. We already had a Pavarotti who did scales every single day of his life when he was, getting ready to perform or training, because scales meter out the control of your voice, and they are incrementally warming up. So just to go, he said, I just relax. And then they get louder. I said, well, that's kind of like a scale.
Yeah.
But it may not be. It's just trying to make music more emotional rather than intellectual.
But you got to have guidelines.
You do.
How else do you have a foundation to set the technique on
Thank you.
without scales?
Thank you.
It's almost like saying, well, there's X amount of car-related deaths every year. So by that principle, you should not be driving a car to work today.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds great, but not all of us can afford private jets. So now what do? We learn individually how to be better, safer drivers. Put the phone down.
Yeah, thank you.
Put both hands on the wheel. Stop thinking about what your friend did to you yesterday that caused you to feel inadequate or whatever. Focus on staying in between the lines.
Yeah. Ooh, that's very practical. So, to the answer to the question, that rhetorical question, as can singing success or speech level singing hurt your voice? Absolutely not. In fact, Franco Fusi, who is the throat doctor for Andrea Bocelli, brought me out to this Seminarium de Voce Mista. It's a seminar for the mixed voice, and I was a keynote speaker out in Forte de Marmi in 2014.
And you didn't bring me back any gnocchi.
I know. I should have brought some. I could have froze it for you in a dry ice. But anyway, I was out there teaching out here. It was horrible. You know what? My luggage got lost, so I had to go to any store to get something to wear besides the filthy clothes on my body. And all they had was sweats. And everybody was dressed in suits and all this. So I'm
You were
wearing these
before your
sweats, and
time.
like,
That's basically all everybody wears these days.
Oh,
anyway.
no, I was. And the worst thing is they didn't fit. They were baggy. So I'm up there teaching in baggy sweats. Like,
Well, the good thing about it is in Italy, you can't throw a rock without it in a place to buy some clothes.
That's right. So the next day I did go buy something nice. But that was the only store open, was a little sports place. But I taught there like 2 blocks from Bocelli's house. It was really cool. And Franco Fusi had done a research program on the mixed voice. That's why he had me as a keynote speaker, because I wrote Mastering Mix. If you're not familiar with it, if you don't own it. Just go to my website and get it. It'll change your life. Get it, stream it, buy it, do whatever you want, but get it. Well, he did some vocal therapy on people who had nodules, polyps, cysts, all kinds of vocal trouble using the mixed method, the blend of head and chest, because when you blend, which is the lightest with which is your foundation. You need a chest voice, that's your foundation. You need a top, which releases, and then you need to be able to blend those two. If you can't blend them without a break, and I'm not talking about going, and some people soften up, and you're like, you're sneaking through there. You're not really connected. You're basically connected because maybe not flipping it a false, but truly connected is when it's a seamless rug. You know, when you have one big huge rug and there's a seam in the middle, but sometimes you can't see it because the guy is so good at laying the carpet down that there's no seam. The voices should be like that. So some people go, ah, ah. It's not necessarily breaking, but it isn't truly connected. Truly connected is ah, over and over and over. And I'm not warmed up.
No, I'm sitting 3 feet away from you, and I tell you there's zero break anywhere.
And you know, and it's just because it's easy after 20 years,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
that's all.
We're going to say that like every podcast. Easy after 20 years, of course. To make Pavarotti famous. Oh, as if we could do that. You know, I know kids who don't know who he is. Who's Pavarotti? Oh my gosh, your parents need to educate you. So, scales help. Technique helps, but that technique should mean that you keep your larynx fairly neutral. You have an even transition from your mouth up into your head cavity, and it's like the letter C is in the back of your throat. Starts into the mouth. Ah, and every note higher slides further and further behind the soft palate. Ah, it's not bad. It's not bad, I guess.
It's easy after 20 years.
Easy after 20 years, of course.